Guys, we're 4 episodes deep into Daredevil, and I'm starting to get just a little bit worried. I'm about to tell you why. So the episode starts off with White Tiger's mask and amulet being put in a bag. White Tiger's niece also wants to see him. If you guys didn't know, his niece is going to be the next White Tiger. So this is kind of like a little introduction moment and scene we saw her in the last episode, but this is just kind of getting to know the actress just a little bit right here. Probably going to see her in some Young Avengers coming up. She pretty much asked if the police killed her uncle, and, you know, she knows what the deal is. She basically says the city is nothing. They can't fix it. She hates it. But Matt assures her that somebody out there will do right and will fix it. And of course, he's speaking about himself. He's speaking about Daredevil here. We see Muse for the first time carrying a body at the train station. We don't really know a whole lot about Muse, and really they don't show him a whole lot this episode. But this is our first look of him actually outside of a trailer. It's our first look at him in an episode. So then we see Daniel Blade at a party. He's popping drinks and everything else. He accidentally gives a little bit too much information out for Fisk over here to BB. But you know, he says, "What can I say? I love the guy." The dude is a straight up Fisk fanboy. I've got a video up on the channel of why I think that is, if you guys want to go check that out. Fisk and Vanessa go and they talk about the affair when they're at therapy. She says her father would leave for weeks at a time, among other things, and pretty much Fisk leaving triggered a memory in with her, and it just didn't mix well, and that's kind of why she's upset. In other news, Murdoch has a quote unquote freebie he's got to give this guy. So he's helping him. He got arrested outside of a store for stealing like little boxes of food of some sort. The guy's being a total dick and making fun of Matt for being blind, basically saying like, "No, I'm getting probation. I'm not doing any time here." Matt's clearly irritated at this, but he's got to do his job. So he ends up getting him 10 days, which is a lot better than the 20 to 30 that they were going to give him. So 10 days is a W for that. Matt sees that dirty cop that we've been watching for a few episodes here now. He sees him walk up and he says, "Hey, you know, funny seeing you here," but he calls him out for killing the White Tiger. The cop says he doesn't know anything about anything, but obviously Matt can hear his heartbeat. So he's like, "Yeah, this dude's lying." The cop threatens Murdoch, but he tells him he will need more than a few guys than the last time they met, which is basically like talking about that scene that we saw to where he whooped them all and broke all their bones and went crazy on them. But it was only like 2 or 3 cops. And he's basically saying like, "Dude, you're going to need like 5 or 6 of these dudes to even have a chance." But I mean, dude's Daredevil. I don't think the cop knows he's Daredevil at this point. I think he's just like, "Yo, what is this blind dude doing?" So this is pretty funny. So Fisk is wanting to redo the docks here, and we know that we've had a few murders over here on the docks, and that's what they're worried about. They're trying to fix it. He's trying to look good. He asked Daniel Blade about his opinion. He's pretty much all about Daniel Blade, and Daniel Blade's all about him. But actually, in this episode, they get a little monkey wrench thrown in their operation here, because Daniel showed BB a little bit too much when they were out drinking. So BB wrote an article trashing Fisk and says it's his fault. But BB wrote an article trashing Fisk, and Daniel pretty much says like, "Hey, it's my fault." Daniel says he doesn't deserve the job and he made a mistake. And Fisk had already called this big press conference and he's like, "Hey, we will find who did this." And he's terrible. He looks like he's about to stomp somebody's face in. Ultimately, Fisk forgives him, saying if you do it ever again, it'll be the last thing you do. Pretty much insinuating like, "Buddy, you will die if you ever do this again." So, of course, we're waiting for Fisk to snap and we're waiting for Murdoch to snap. It's kind of like a parallel here. Matt realizes in this episode that they never found the casing of the bullet for what was shot and killed White Tiger. So he ends up doing his own little investigation. He finds the casing. The casing has the Punisher logo on it. So clearly he knows where Frank Castle is. He goes and he talks to him. Frank's in like this hidden little area, hidden room, and he's got every gun you can think of on the wall. They have just a little bit of a scramble. They go back and forth about like, "Come on," you know, he's like, "Come on, Red, like, you know why you're doing this. You know, you're a lot more like me than you think. You know, you're no hero, you know, this hero bullshit." So they're going back and forth, and it was pretty entertaining. Anytime I see John Bernthal on the screen as Frank Castle, or really as anybody, John Bernthal is just a fantastic actor. It just upgrades the episode by 200% immediately for me. So Frank is not involved in this. He's like, yeah, I mean, bullshit fanboys are doing this, so they get on talking about, service. And Frank's like, what do you know about service? He's like, I actually served. He's like, thank you for your service. They're going back and forth here about that. And Murdoch tells him he needs to quit hiding. He's like, dude, I'm not hiding from anything. He basically starts getting at Matt because he doesn't want to talk about Foggy. He's like, hey, how about that friend of yours? You save his life. And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. He's like, say his name, you coward. He talks to you, doesn't he? So basically he's saying, like, we know in the Punisher show, Punisher actually hears the voices of his family. Kind of it's like PTSD coming back where he's talking to him. He actually mentioned this in this episode. He's like, I hear my little boy tell me, like, get them all. So that was kind of crazy to hear, but it was cool. Matt pretty much starts breaking down because at this point he's just breaking. This is it. He's been holding it in for the past year, hasn't been Daredevil with all these emotions, and it just hits. So they end up saying farewell, peace out, have a good one. Unfortunately, we don't really see Frank Castle get into action here or say that he's coming into action anytime soon. I would assume maybe we'll see a little bit more of him by the finale. But finally, I thought at the end of the last episode, we were going to get to this point at the beginning of this episode, but we didn't. But at the end of this episode, we finally got to it. Murdoch's at home. He finally goes and he looks at the Daredevil suit. You see all the masks that he's got. You see his weapon. You see all this stuff. He starts pulling out some of his gadgets and he starts training a little bit on the roof, practicing. And it's just like everything's falling into place. He knows what he's got to do. So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn about this episode. Part of me is like, man, it was a solid episode. And the other part of me was like, this is what I wanted. Like the second half of the episode is what should have been the first half of the episode. And we should have got a whole lot more than what we got, in my opinion, for a fourth episode. It's a very slow season here. We're moving very slow. So I would like to see it pick up just a little bit more. Now, I do know Daredevil is a more slower paced show. The Netflix series was a slower paced show. But hey, I'm looking for it to be just a little bit crazier than what it is. I'm enjoying it. I think, overall, this was like, if I was rating it honestly, I would probably say it was like a 6, but with John Bernthal being in it and me loving Punisher, me loving him as an actor, my personal enjoyment just for that scene was like a 7 or an 8. So I mean, critically like a 6, but enjoyment for me personally, just because it had one of my favorite actors in it and I thought that he played that perfectly, it was like a 7 and 8 for that second half. We also see Fisk has that Adam guy that we've been talking about for the past few videos, locked up in a cage, and he's bloody and he's begging for help, and he's like, please, Fisk. He's like, it's Mayor Fisk to you. And Fisk just sitting there eating his food while he's sitting there begging for help. I think that's crazy because I don't think Vanessa knows about that. And if she finds out, that's not going to be too good. And then the episode ends with Muse taking that same guy under the train station in a hidden place and starts like stealing his blood, or he's like pumping something into him. I'm not really sure. I don't really know a whole lot about Muse, honestly. So I'm looking forward to seeing how his story plans out. And then, of course, earlier in the episode, we had that scroll mention, which any time at this point when they mention anything regarding the MCU really just kind of puts it into effect. Like, yeah, we're in the MCU now. So I love that. Because, there's at some points it feels like the Netflix series. And, you kind of forget for a second that this is actually the MCU. They talk about Queens. Spider-Man's just down the street. Like this stuff is happening. So I think that this is so sick that, that's what's going on. But yeah, overall, I'd say it was about a 6 for me. But personally, for the Punisher scene alone was like a 7 or an 8, for me, because I really enjoyed it. But it wasn't that great of an episode. And I'm hoping that we start picking up here on this back half of the season. I know they're starting to film season 2, so I'm hoping season 2 is all balls to the wall. But you guys know how that goes. It's going to have a slow startup as well, or at least a new startup for season 2. So I'm just interested to see how they wrap all this up, and I'm really excited to see that Punisher spinoff. That Punisher spinoff is going to be crazy. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you guys haven't already. I've got videos up about Daredevil going up like crazy right now, 1 to 2 videos a week. So make sure you guys check that out. Have yourself a good day. Peace.